Budgie and the Blizzard by the Duchess of York, illustrated by John Richardson. Budgie and the Blizzard. It was early December, and a cold wind howled through the countryside. In their snug little farmhouse, Mr. and Mrs. Fairweather were putting the finishing touches on the nursery for the new baby they were expecting to be born in a couple of weeks. Mr. Fairweather finished painting the last wall as Mrs. Fairweather arranged a pretty laced coverlet over the baby's cradle. You see them in there working? "It certainly is cold today," said Mrs. Fairweather. "I just hope we don't get any early storms," answered Mr. Fairweather. "The last thing we need is bad weather when we drive to the hospital." Mr. and Mrs. Fairweather covered the canary cage, fed the dog Farkle, and settled down for an evening at home and a long night's sleep. At the hangar where he lived, Budgie, the little helicopter, was napping in the corner. "Budgie, where are you?" called his friend Pippa, the Piper Warrior plane. "Budgie," shouted the loudspeaker. It wouldn't have been a loudspeaker if it had whispered, "Budgie." He's over here napping with the cat. When Pippa finally found him, Budgie was just waking up. "Can't you hear? They've been calling you for 5 minutes," said Pippa. "Radio back, quickly." Budgie called in and received his instructions. "Just a boring parcel pickup," he grumbled. "Thanks for waking me up, Pippa." "Next time you have a snooze, don't turn off your radio," scolded Pippa. "And go carefully, because it looks like it might snow." Budgie lifted off at twilight and flew north just as it was getting dark. He saw the railway tracks and followed them. Soon he saw the station he was looking for in the town of Bradleian. Budgie landed and asked Mr. Chumpy, the station master, for his parcel. Mr. Chumpy frowned. "The train is late, and your package is on the train. You can stay here, but it looks like a terrible storm is coming." Budgie decided he would wait. Back at the airfield, it started to snow, and Pippa worried about her friend. Budgie had never been out overnight in freezing weather, and Pippa knew he hated the cold. Budgie sat, huddled, as the weather changed to a full blizzard. He could barely see the snow drifted over him. The night dragged on. He began to feel very cold. Early the next morning, even before the sun rose, Mrs. Fairweather woke up with sharp pains in her middle. She nudged her husband Michael. She said, "I think the baby is coming a little early." They both got out of bed and could hardly believe their eyes when they looked out the window. Everywhere they looked, they could see nothing but white. The fence around them The fence around their house was buried. Their car was buried, and the snow was still falling. They had both slept soundly as the blizzard had raged outside. "Pack yourself a little bag for the hospital," said Mr. Fairweather. "I'll go outside and dig the car out." "All right," said Mrs. Fairweather, "but do hurry. I don't think it will be very long before the baby arrives." About 15 minutes later, Mr. Fairweather came indoors, looking very worried. "I've dug the car out," he explained, "but I can't get the motor to start." "Now, don't worry. I'll just make a telephone call or two, and I'm sure we'll find a way to get to the hospital on time," Mrs. Fairweather reassured her nervous husband. I don't know how she could be so calm. Budgie was startled by the call on his radio. "Control to Budgie, we need your help. We have a woman stranded in her house who's about to have a baby. You are the only helicopter available." Budgie felt frozen, but replied, "Have them put out a signal and give me directions. I'll call after I take off." Budgie tried to start his engine. On his third attempt, the engine caught up, but his rotor blades wouldn't move. He was iced up. Budgie felt terrible. He tried to cheer himself up with a joke. "Budgie can't budge. Ha, ha." It didn't work. Pippa had been listening to her radio and guessed that Budgie was having problems. She could not take off on the snow-covered runway, but thought she could help Budgie anyway. Budgie was cold and miserable when Mr. Chumpy approached with a steaming bucket. "Someone called and said you might be frozen up," he said. He climbed on top of Budgie and poured hot water onto his rotor. Budgie was so grateful. He thanked Mr. Chumpy for the only bath he had ever enjoyed, and then quickly lifted off. The snow had stopped, and the sun was rising as Budgie flew toward the Fairweathers' farm. He searched below and finally saw that what he thought must be a signal. 3 pairs of bright red long johns flapping on clotheslines. Budgie landed in deep snow right beside the farmhouse. Mrs. Fairweather could barely walk as the couple made their way through the drifts. Finally, they were on board, and Budgie flew as fast as he could to the hospital. As the Fairweathers went inside, they waved and called out, "Thank you. We couldn't have made it without you." On his way home, Budgie picked up his parcel at the train station. By the time he landed at the hangar, Pippa was so excited she could hardly stand it. They had a baby boy, she explained. They named him Jack B. Fairweather, and the B stands for Budgie. Budgie beamed. "I bet I know who suggested a hot bath for me. If they ever had a little girl, they would have named her Pippa." The end. Well, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this book. This book I used to read when I was little. Well, actually, I didn't necessarily read it when I was little, but it was read to me when I was little. This book, funny enough, let me show you guys this. This is silly. I was looking at this. So this book belongs to Adam Verlinde, and my mom wrote that when I was younger, and I was about your age. And my dad used to read me this book when I was growing up. I hope that you guys all enjoy it, and we'll bring it into the classroom too once we're all back at school, and that way you guys can enjoy it and you guys can touch it and see it and everything. Hope you guys are having a good day. Love you. Bye.